All right then. Hello, welcome, marhaba, bienvenue. We are truly excited to celebrate 30 years of the Co-Scholars program with you all today. We have an exciting program lined up for you. We will get to hear from the folks who have built this program into what it is today. We've also put together several videos, and we'll be sharing a little bit about our future plans as well.
All right, my name is Amos Izerimana. I'm from Burundi, but I'm currently living in Kentucky in the United States.
And my name is Indi Thotawatthige. I'm from Sri Lanka and currently living in Doha, Qatar.
So we both graduated from the Co-Scholars Program 2016, and it is our absolute honor and privilege to be here celebrating with all of you today.
And before we kick off with all the exciting festivities, we actually want to open our space together today with some quiet time. And we humbly ask you all to join in this much needed pause, however, and from wherever you are joining this call today.
Yeah, so we have chosen a poem from the late great Maya Angelou, On the Pulse of the Morning, which we will now play for you and then observe a moment of silence together and reflect on its meaning.
A rock, a river, a tree, hosts to species long since departed, marked the mastodon, the dinosaur, who left dry tokens of their sojourn here on our planet floor. Any broad alarm of their hastening doom is lost in the gloom of dust and ages. But today, the rock cries out to us, clearly, forcefully, "Come, you may stand upon my back and face your distant destiny, but seek no haven in my shadow. I will give you no hiding place down here. You, created only a little lower than the angels, have crouched too long in the bruising darkness, have lain too long face down in ignorance, your mouths spilling words armed for slaughter. The rock cries out to us today, you may stand upon me, but do not hide your face. Across the wall of the world, a river sings a beautiful song. It says, come, rest here by my side. Each of you, a bordered country, delicate and strangely made, proud, yet thrusting perpetually under siege. Your armed struggles for profit have left collars of waste upon my shore, currents of debris upon my breast. Yet today, I call you to my riverside, if you will study war no more. Come, clad in peace, and I will sing the songs the Creator gave to me when I and the tree and the rock were one. Before cynicism was a bloody sear across your brow, and when you yet knew, you still knew nothing. The river sang and sings on. There is a true yearning to respond to the singing river and the wise rock. So say the Asian, the Hispanic, the Jew, the African, the Native American, the Sioux, the Catholic, the Muslim, the French, the Greek, the Irish, the rabbi, the priest, the sheik, the gay, the straight, the preacher, the privileged, the homeless, the teacher. They all hear the speaking of the tree. They hear the first and last of every tree speak to humankind today. Come to me, here beside the river. Plant yourself beside the river. Each of you, descendant of some passed-on traveler, has been paid for. You who gave me my first name, you Pawnee, Apache, Seneca, you Cherokee Nation, who rested with me, then forced on bloody feet, left me to the employment of other seekers, desperate for gain, starving for gold. You, the Turk, the Arab, the Swede, the German, the Eskimo, the Scot, you, the Ashanti, the Yoruba, the Kru, bought, sold, stolen, arriving on a nightmare, praying for a dream. Here, root yourselves beside me. I am that tree planted by the river which will not be moved. I, the rock, I, the river, I, the tree, I am yours. Your passages have been paid. Lift up your faces. You have a piercing need for this bright morning dawning for you. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift up your eyes upon this day breaking for you. Give birth again to the dream. Women, children, men, take it into the palms of your hands. Mold it into the shape of your most private need. Sculpt it into the image of your most public self. Lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings. Do not be wedded forever to fear, yoked eternally to brutishness. The horizon leans forward, offering you space to place new steps of change. Here, on the pulse of this fine day, you may have the courage to look up and out and upon me, the rock, the river, the tree, your country. No less to Midas than the mendicant, no less to you now than the mastodon then. Here, on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes and into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning.
Thank you, everybody. I gently invite you to come back to the main call with us on Zoom. So we chose this poem because we felt that amidst trials and tribulations, amidst darkness, it challenges us to think about the way forward and about a future brightened by truth and responsibility, and the hope for unity and harmony among all peoples that we carry within our hearts. And I hope that today's quiet time allowed you a pause amidst the routine and busyness of your life. And I would like to invite you all to share your own reflections in the Zoom chat. Please feel free to type out what is on your hearts and your minds right now. Perhaps it could be the message of this poem and how it resonated with you. Perhaps it could be how you're coming into this call and taking a moment to pause and have this quiet time, what it meant to you. We would like to see several reflections on our Zoom chat. So we invite you all to write a few thoughts. Thank you, Pravir, who's joining us from Bengaluru, India, and thinking especially of those in Afghanistan in this hour of turmoil. Brad Hughes, who's sharing gratitude for this opportunity to connect with our CSP family, which is on his mind and heart right now, and also for the opportunity to come to Co to learn, contribute, and connect.
And Monica, who is very thankful to be here and to feel the presence of God and light in her life, especially in the quiet time.
Stephen says, feeling very included in a world that seems very excluding at the moment.
Strong feelings of gratitude for diversity, respect, hope, opportunities, and peace.
Randy reminds us that we stand on the shoulders of many others who have gone through painful and difficult times.
And Manda is sending prayers to Afghanistan and Haiti.
Rhythm reflects on the importance to start listening to the oppressed and the oppressor.
And for Laverne, the quiet time reminded them of to let God speak to them rather than making a request of God.
Erica, who says, our thoughts and light to our friends in Afghanistan.
And Florina says, with the rock we stand, with the river we flow, and with the trees we grow.
Marianne says, amazing to see everyone who is on the call. So many memories, so many we so often think of and pray for within the CSP family and friends. And that's coming from Christoph and Marianne.
And Cheryl says the poem is very reflective of our current experiences. So much has changed, yet not much has changed. They are very concerned about the social ills that robs others of the dignity of life.
A beautiful reminder that organically we are connected, not separate, and in fact constituted of the past and with the future. Grateful to be here despite the very uncertain times in Kabul. Wondering how many alumni are in conflict areas and hoping they are all safe and well. Maya Angelou's words of good morning is a profound expression of hope. So many of you are feeling gratitude and the ability to reconnect with all the amazing beings on this call.
From Mangalam, my heart unites with all of you, offering my gratitude to each one of you for your contribution to IFC, which gives us life and energy like the tree planted near the water. And Dailash felt a lot of gratitude for being part of a global community on this special rock that Maya talks about in her poem. We are connected even when we cannot see it. Much love to Afghanistan.
Thank you to all of you for sharing your wonderful reflections. It's really inspiring, heartwarming, and beautiful to read. Due to time constraints, we can't read all of them, but it is just incredibly wonderful to witness how much this quiet time together and just being in each other's presence, even on Zoom, can make us all feel connected and feel grateful. So thank you for those beautiful reflections. And now onward with our celebrations. We are now going to invite Yitka and Rohit from the CSP team to share an introduction about the Co-Scholars, as well as the Global Alumni Initiative.
Thank you, Indy and Rohit, and welcome to everyone. My name is Yitka, and I don't think I will share too much about the Co-Scholars program because you all know it, and that's why you are here to celebrate. So just a couple of words for those who do not know the Co-Scholars program. This year is the 30th anniversary, and Co-Scholars brings together young leaders from around the world to study and experience conflict transformation, reconciliation, principled leadership, and most recently, restorative and transitional justice. We have over 100 alumni all over the world who learn and practice conflict transformation in their countries. And the program takes place in Switzerland at the beautiful Co-Palace. A chance to share a little bit about the Global Alumni Initiative, which is our newest program.
Who Are We? GAIN is a live network of more than 1,000 IFC alumni in 109 countries that includes changemakers from the Co-Scholars Program Switzerland and Asia Plateau, the Community Trust Building Fellowship, and the Narrative Change Collaborative. What we do, our alumni work in communities around the globe, challenging power structures and hierarchies while promoting equity and justice. Whatever that looks like, this is their space to share ideas and connect with each other. How we do it, GAIN works at the personal, relational, and systemic level. We are committed to personal responsibility and integrity to build a community based on dialogue in diversity, impacting global needs by taking focused action. At GAIN, we want to build an open platform that empowers and supports IFC alumni who are leaders and initiators in their own right in their journey as leaders of social change. When we launched around this time last year, COVID-19 surge was at its peak. The world shifted online and so did we. We tried our best to keep the spirit of CSP alive by organizing courses, webinars, and regional dialogues with topics ranging from restorative justice, trauma healing, transforming historical harms, career development, etc. Before we hear from our esteemed faculty and team, I would like to take this opportunity to share with you all a video montage of the journey and impact of CSP so far. Hope you enjoy watching as much as we enjoyed making it.
The Co-Scholars Program is a unique opportunity for 20 international scholars who are chosen very carefully. We look closely at those who represent all the regions of the world. We look at gender representativity. We look at race and conflict, non-conflict zones. We look at scholars who might be in conflict zones themselves coming together, and we bring together 20 select scholars for an intensive 30-day, 1-month embodied educational experience. It really involves us living together, studying together, working together, serving together, if you will, and building a learning community that usually ends up feeling more like a family and colleagues as well as fellow scholars. Many of our scholars are coming from the front lines, and this is their time to come off the front lines, breathe again, reflect about their life, reflect about what they're doing.
In the last decade, we've been having some issues with the religious extremist groups who involve youth and other members of our societies.
I'm working with women. Most of them are affected by war and violence.
We have anger as one of the pillars of our identity, and anger against the atrocities of the French colonization.
We have over 40 political prisoners and repressions against people who did not support the occupation.
How do we introduce something new? Why we have different elements in the system and how they're in relationship to each other, and can we change that relationship?
Because it takes us from identity toward trust building, peace building, narratives, and towards to restorative justice.
We gained trust amongst each other. We built strong ties and we gained a supportive network.
I didn't know how can I, connect those two fields, social work and trauma-informed work with people. And here I actually found this connection.
At the middle, I started questioning, can I be a person who work on conflict resolution? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the strength? I feel so weak and I cry most of the time hearing with it's like, even if I don't have any problem, if I'm not connected, but I feel I'm so vulnerable, but I get a lot of support. I feel like I'm transforming from inside out.
It doesn't matter where the scholars come from and who they are. It ends up being transformative for most of them.
The Co-Scholars Programme has alumni from 67 different countries in each corner of the globe. United by the common goal of making change, we each bring differences to the table too.
We have alumni who are heads of mission in the UN. We have alumni who are international lawyers. We have alumni who are journalists in war zones. We have every sector from sort of the micro to the macro that you can imagine. Our alumni are there.
I want to address the important questions of education for peace, transformative justice, and other issues that I learned from this program. I think that education can be the only panacea.
In the future, I'm interested in supporting veterans who are coming back from war, their children and their families.
The Coast Scholars Programme at Asia Plateau was established in 2014. It is a programme of the Initiatives of Change USA. It is modelled after the Coast Scholars Programme in Switzerland. In the Asia Plateau, the home of the Friends of Moral Rearmament, the programme brings together scholars from a variety of backgrounds to discuss, debate, participate and learn peace building and sustainable development. It is aimed at training young peace builders in the values of the Initiatives of Change and equipping them with the skills, knowledge and attitude to transform conflicts. The scholars go through an intensive community experience in a peaceful and progressive environment.
The Coast Scholars Program is a very unique program that draws scholars from all over the world. It offers a platform for experiential learning in a very serene and a quiet atmosphere of the Asia Plateau.
The Coast Scholars Program taught me a lot of things, and among them is being mindful and respectful of other people's ideas and perspectives, and also understanding that their differences is part of who they are.
I learned a lot over here about sustainability, peace, social entrepreneurship, conflict resolution, trauma healing, and it was really an enriching experience for me because we bonded as a team together, and we had people from different nationalities who came together, and it was so heartening to see the kind of conflicts that they came from.
What I liked about CSP AP was that the people. The people were loving, we cried together, we laughed together, and we had so much fun together. And also another part that I really enjoyed about CSP was the wash-up and service time. I think having fun, singing songs, and also enjoying ourselves while we're doing service was really fun for me. Was a really fun experience for me. It's very different from home in the sense that you're just washing plates, but here we had fun doing it. So that's what family is about. At the end of the day, we're supposed to have fun when you're doing chores and stuff like that.
The biggest takeaway or the greatest takeaway from this program is all of us. I've become part of a global network of young people from different countries. There's 18 nationalities present here. I've begun to understand their culture. I've begun to understand how they go through their day-to-day life. I've begun to understand the different conflicts that they are facing. That is the biggest takeaway.
I could commit, being the victim, I could commit aggression because I think that is justice for me. And when I commit aggression on somebody else, another person or another community is traumatized. Yeah? And then the cycle of violence continues. Not always, yeah, but this is just a way of looking at it.
I was born in war, and I think I grew up in war, and I spent my childhood in war. I spent my adulthood in war too, and I hope my children wouldn't do that, or children of the next generation and the generations after them wouldn't experience the thing we did, because at some point you just start giving up on everything and on the life. That's why I think if we start peace building today, it would be at least good for them to have a peaceful society.
In terms of peace building, in terms of conflict resolutions and understanding where we are in our different countries, it has given us adequate information to know why we act the way we act, and how do we then break free from that. If it's something good, how do we continue with it? When bad, how do we break free from that? So it's about now imparting the knowledge that I've got here in my community, in the generation of Zimbabwean young people, to try and say, how do we build a better Zimbabwe, which is a contributor to the global discourse and to the global politics and to the global developmental effort that the world is seeking to undertake.
This course has surpassed my wildest expectations. Not only do the professors bring a huge amount of experience to the knowledge that they have, but also you're learning alongside a group of people with real lived experiences of conflict and human rights violations, and I've learned more from that group of people than I could have from any textbook.
In CSP AP, I learned that no one has the monopoly to solutions. It's not solutions to problems, to issues. No one has a monopoly to it. Not peace builders, not human rights workers, especially not politicians. For real peace, real lasting peace, It must be a collaborative effort and a conscious and relentless decision of each and every person that's actually involved in the conflict.
The Co-Scholars Programme has a lot of relevance to everyday life. For me personally, I've found that it's really helped me to understand the conflicts that I face at a deeper level and to really analyse the root causes of those conflicts, to get me thinking about the different types of conflicts and how I as an individual can go about creating peace within these conflict-based situations, either at an individual and interpersonal level, within my family, community, or even taking that up to the national and international level.
Just take one each. One each. One person, one each. Ah, one each.
Does I have part picture?
That's a rough sheet.
Rough sheet. I got you.
Why not?
We didn't take them. The assistant teachers used to make these most amazing resources for us. So if we were teaching about animals, there would suddenly be these animals everywhere, and then they'd be cutting out bars of bees. Just one
We're going to do something very interesting. What are some of the simple images that come to your life that give you peace? Just images.
All the flax are in silhouette, and just seeing all the colors kind of graduate into this little burning fireball. It's really peaceful.
Staff notation. Staff notation is used to compose music. I know of it through choral music. I, believe it or not, sing in the church choir.
Wow.
More for the choir than for the church. And I hated the fact that I don't have anything that gives me peace. But then I drew the Bible and music. It's becoming gospel music. Simply, honestly, I don't like gospel music. But there's one gospel track that I really listen to every opportunity I get. So that's the one that I'm thinking of. Probably that's the one that gives me peace, that one song. Vana sikana venyuawa, nevana komana venyu, vacha porofita, vacha porofita.
My name is David Anderson Hooker. I am a professor of conflict transformation and peace building at the University of Notre Dame, the Joan Kroc Institute for International Peace Studies at the university. I've been affiliated with Co-Scholars program here in Asia Plateau for 3 years, and before that with the Co-Scholars program in Switzerland for a couple of years, and also with the program in Richmond. The Initiatives of Change have a Community Trust Builders Fellowship program in Richmond that I've been involved with for about the past 8 years. Peace building is always going to be necessary. There's always just the ideal civil society just doesn't exist. There's always some level of contention. Somebody is included, somebody is excluded, and so the measures of peace may be different. The amount of violence may vary from community to community and civil society to civil society or state to state, but there's always a need for people to have in mind peace building, either to be reactive to instances of violence and exclusion and structural oppression, but also peace builders are folks who are looking proactively to see where society is changing in ways that tend towards violence and structural oppression. And so you need people who have in mind peace as a forwarding ideology, as a forward way of thinking, whether they are directly involved in responding to violence or preventing future possibilities for violence and oppression, whether it's short-term or longer-term. You need peace builders all the time in society because it's the only way to prepare for and to preserve the possibility of peace.
One of the most important aspects of the program here at Asia Plateau
are field trips. We bring the scholars to the villages and communities around Asia Plateau where they can learn about rural or local initiatives that enhance education, healthcare, create employment, and it is a fantastic way to connect the theory with the practical aspects of the peace-building world.
It was very lively compared with my country's village. They're kind of the death place because there's only about the elder generation and then no younger generation is there. And then everything is slow at my hometown's village. But in their village, I could see some kind of the passion. Everybody just work hard and then they just working and then put their effort about making sustainable life. And then that point was very inspiring to me.
We are making leaders for tomorrow. Many young people do not have this opportunity, and for those who have this opportunity, it is good to be here and to learn from each other. Apart from the various things that we do, we also work on assimilation. Assimilation is like a role play, but extended over a couple of days, sometimes even 2 days. And the one that we are doing this year is overnight. And so the students get into their roles and play peacemakers to militants to common people, just living their life and seeing how it feels.
Co-Scholars program has played an instrumental role in my life. Whether it's justice reconciliation, humanitarian work, or development, I feel they all are intermingled. The Co-Scholars program helps young people to understand that if we have conflict transformational lens, development and humanitarian work can be sustainable.
So after the 3 weeks of the program, it will be really frustrating because we'll have just enough knowledge to know that something is possible, but not necessarily all of the skills and relationships to be able to make the big changes that people want to make. But one of the beauties of the way that Initiatives of Change is set up is you have the alumni network. And so it's not just these scholars here by themselves that need to make change. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together with others. And so we're seeding alumni in each of these areas and regions so that when people go back to their homes, they can join with others who are committed to doing the work. And so it's never one scholar that goes off and does amazing changes by themselves, but what they do is they get into networks with others who are really doing some amazing things, who are beginning to have employers hire outside of the caste system, even in communities where casting is a big deal, or finding ways to partner with others to minimize and actually to diminish the likelihood of gender-based violence or child marriage. These are some of the kinds of really difficult issues that the scholars are taking on, and they're finding alliances and partnerships when they go home. And so they contribute their passion and their new knowledge into these partnerships, which revitalizes them and keeps everybody going. So it's important to constantly have a wave of new energy and new passion being injected into these networks of change.
GAIN is a safe space, an intersectional space where we are bound together by mutual respect and a desire to challenge global power structures. Members of GAIN might be just starting out in their careers or may have already made great strides towards justice. Wherever they are in the world and their careers, the people who make up GAIN support each other to transform the world around them. Our network is growing, and with it, extraordinary people across the globe are supporting one another to make the world a better place.
You know, love is all we need.
We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a better day. So let's start giving.
Wow. Thank you, Rohit, for putting that beautiful impact video together. Definitely not an easy task fitting in 30 years into a mere 20 minutes. Watching this video, I too shared similar feelings that several of you have mentioned on the chat: nostalgia, joy, reflecting on all the amazing memories that so many of us have experienced together, whether up on the mountain at Co or at Asia Plateau, and definitely long after the program has ended, being in community with peace builders around the world. One of the things I noticed about the video, however, were the fashion choices as with each passing CSP class, though I will refrain from talking about certain faculty members' receding hairlines because I don't want to offend anyone, but y'all know who you are. Anyway, together, as we gathered here today to celebrate 30 years of CSP, we want to acknowledge two very special people whose initial idea has grown into this global community. So our heartfelt gratitude and sincere appreciation to our founders, Rob and Sue Corcoran, for their vision, dedication, and paving way for a global community to come together and experience and work towards hope. We also acknowledge that this program has been so successfully carried out for this long by a very, very special group of people. And that is the amazing faculty and team behind the Co-Scholars. And we will be introducing each one of them today. You've seen some of them speak on the video, and we have asked each of them to share one, I repeat myself, one highlight or special moment of their CSP experience. Amos and I have sat in the classes of several of these faculty. We've listened to them drop some major wisdom. We also know they're all wonderful storytellers in their own right, and they can easily go on for an hour or so. But dear faculty and team, just for today, we ask you to exercise brevity. Amos, over to you.
All right, so we are not going to take too much time, and we're going to start up with Dr. Ashok Xavier.
One highlight. Okay, one highlight would be the case of kidnapping. We were having this very, very peaceful young kid. And throughout the simulation, throughout the Co-Scholars program, he was such a darling to everybody. Did not speak a single word against anything. So he took on the role of a militant. And there was a peace process going on. And in the middle of the peace process, he had to go and threaten this peace worker or the head of state. The head of state comes out after, the head of state comes out after the peace talks. He comes out from the room and so quietly kidnaps this peace worker. Inside the room, the peace worker does not know that she is kidnapped. He does it flawlessly, superbly, seamlessly. And that is a major highlight for me, because the way he did it, the way he transformed from being this wonderful young goody-goody guy to this guy who could kidnap people is what a situation can lead us to. The situations today around the world are so compelling. How good people become bad people and how bad people can be good people. It's the situation that makes it. So I will stop here. I have hundreds of experiences, hundreds of hours. We can go on and on and on. There's so many funny experiences. I will stop here. But anyway, I'm compelled to tell about another one, but I'll stop. It's a funny one, but I'll stop here.
And Dr. Florina, if you have one highlight that you would like to share.
I will probably share what Ashok wanted to share. I think this is a wonderful couple that CSP has given. I'm sure they've given us several couples, but we want to talk about one wonderful couple. And this couple, they were in our class, and both of them amazing people, especially the lady, very sharp, very smart, you know, was just there and was so engaged in the class that I never thought of any distraction that was going on. And the gentleman also the same way, very engaged, very helpful, very loving. And it's only after a year when she applied and said she wants to do her PhD in India. I was wondering why she wants to do her PhD in India. And then, so my Ashok said, she's coming to study, but she's also coming for love. And we were like, wow. And that's Erica and Ria from, I think, the 2018 batch. They came, they fell in love at CSP. They are married and they live here in Chennai and have been companions, friends to us. And I think that love story is a story that we will always remember and we will cherish. And like Ashok says, they are like children to us. Erica is like a daughter and Ria also. So I think that is a very, very special moment for us. Thank you so much, Indy and Amos.
Thank you. A
Florina.
Great story from a co-scholar couple. As you know, we have so many of them from all the different classes.
Okay, this is unfair, y'all. Amos and I did CSP 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and we're still single. We want our money back because we did not find love. I mean, we found a lot of things, peace, joy, hope, but not love. Amos, did you find love at CSP?
I did not. Not
They took it seriously.
I feel
Truth,
now.
mercy, justice, peace, and they added love to it.
Thanks again for sharing, Ashok and Florina. Amos, who's next?
Thank you all so much. Up next, we have Dr. Barry Hart.
Hello to everyone. It's good to be here with my brother, Sam Doe, who's going to be speaking in a minute.
Hello.
I think one of the highlights was when the co-scholars actually performed on stage there in the great hall of Mountain House, it was called at the time. We put on a play related to ethnicity and using Dr. Vamik Vulcan's concept of the ethnic tint. And it was an amazing presentation, but the reality was that there was a lot of tension among the co-scholars at the time, at least certain people. And we had to get together beforehand and say, who are we? What do we want to present? And our values that we held in terms of being forthright and honest and so forth were right there and needed to be manifested in our performance. And I was really thankful and proud that the co-scholars pulled off an amazing performance. And we later took care of the conflict between the various parties. But they came together as professionals and the performance went extremely well. So that was one highlight out of about 19 years, so thank you.
Many years, and we've seen Dr. Barry present almost every single one of those classes, and I'm sure he has a lot more stories that he can tell. Since we did not get the memo, me and Indy, we are not together, but it seems like you all had an appointment set to come together. So Dr. Sam Deutsch, you can go ahead and share your one highlight.
Okay, thank you. And hello to all of you. It's really, really exciting to be here and to see all of the beautiful faces. One highlight for me is that I'm sitting close to my brother here, Dr. Hart. And I remember his first experience to CORE. He came from Liberia, 1991, to help us with our trauma situation there. Today, he's here in Sudan, South Sudan with me, talking exactly about the same thing, hearing exactly the same stories of sorrows and pain that people are going through here also in this country. But just on a lighter note, in CORE, I won't share a highlight from the classroom, but climbing the mountain, every weekend there is this attempt by some of the co-scholars to go up the mountain. And so this day I asked to go with one of our colleagues, one of the students at the time, Afiado Zungunza. Zungunza is from Mozambique. And so we tried climbing the mountain and we kept going. And after about 30 minutes and looking down and seeing how steep that is, Afiado stopped me and said, Sam, can I ask you a question? Please, if you can help me address this question. So I said, Afiado, what is the question? He said, Sam, the way we are climbing this mountain, if I were to fall and then go back to Mozambique and tell my grandmother that Afiado has fallen from the mountain in Switzerland, my grandmother will ask, what was he going to do climbing a mountain? And then, so he asked me, can you address, how will you respond to my grandmother if she asks, what is Afiado doing climbing a mountain? And I said, Afiado, I don't think I will be able to give an answer to your grandmother. And then he said, okay, then let's go back down. I'm not going back. I'm not climbing the mountain. So I feel miserably going up that mountain. And that remains with me. Each time I see Afiado, I say, what would my grandmother say if I climb a mountain?
And for those who have not been at Co, I think that there's always a story around the mountain, either going up or going down the mountain, and that's a beautiful story. Thank you, Dr. Semda. All right, so up next we have our very own Dr. Carl Straffer. Carl, are you on?
I am, almost, thank you. And it's wonderful to be here. And I echo all that's been said about how wonderful it is to see the many faces and to take this moment to celebrate Co-Scholars program. Many memories. The one early on in my tenure was, I don't know if this was always a practice, but we would try to bring scholars from different conflicting regions or countries together, just to see how we could work with the conflict that's back home. And I remember specifically early on, we had a scholar from Armenia and a scholar from Azerbaijan. And there was a lot of tension in the room. Often at the very beginning, there was a lot of suspicion. We were all sort of tiptoeing around this thing. And then to my horror, when it came time for presenting conflict where I came from, they came to me and said, we want to do our presentations side by side. We want them right after each other. And I thought, no, that's exactly what I didn't want to do. Let's keep them apart. And but we went ahead, and it was a beautiful opportunity as they presented two sides to a very, very painful conflict and personal for both of them, to actually stand in the gap as the whole class. And we used it as a learning moment. It became a really powerful moment to hear their story, but then also to invite them into a dialogue with each other after they presented their conflicts, and then to step by step talk about what was happening as they began to wrestle with the trauma and wrestle with the news that's only one-sided, the story, the narrative that was only glorifying one side and trauma and demonizing another. And so we walked through a beautiful moment where eventually these two scholars not only became comfortable with each other, but reconciled in a way that was very powerful and became close friends and colleagues even when they went back to their respective countries. And that to me is what the Co-Scholars program is about, and what gives me a lot of hope, even amidst some of the tragedy of the news we're sitting in today in our world.
Yeah, great way, Dr. Carl, of using every moment to learn and to teach. And I remember that story very vividly. Thank you so much for sharing that. Very relevant in the times that we are living in, and in the different connections that we're all making. Thank you so much. All right, up next we have Dr. David Anderson Hooker.
Hello, family. It's wonderful to see everybody and all of the people that I've both been with and learned from throughout all the different experiences. So I want to just talk about one time, not in the classroom, not climbing the mountain, not being sick, none of those. But my greatest lesson, a reminder, was when we took a field trip to the village. And we were in the village and we're working with the young children, we're at the school, we're doing a simple thing. this is at AP. And then they invited me to be the one to crack the coconut and open it and pour the blessing and offer the blessing. It's a very simple thing. And so I take and I hit the coconut. Nothing happens. It doesn't crack, it doesn't chip, it doesn't do anything. And I hit the coconut and it doesn't crack. And I struck the rock against the coconut. And then a young, elder woman, maybe 90 pounds, comes over, she looks at it, she sprinkles a little water, she cracks, opens the coconut and hands it back to me and says, please, sir. You know, like, you're supposed to do your blessing, you're supposed to, but I was failing. And what I was remembering at the moment, what I learned at the moment, what I was trying to express to everybody else is how much wisdom, no matter how much class you're doing, how much studying and theories and everything you're doing, there is so much knowledge and wisdom from the elders in the village. And so it is so important that part of the learning constantly is to go back and remember the wisdom that already exists, the wisdom that has made peace possible, even beyond our theories. And so I think that's one of the beauties of AP, that's one of the beauties of CO, and it's what I constantly learn from the people in GAIN all the time, is the wisdom that they're bringing back into our conversations that they take with them, but then bring back into our networks. And so I'm glad to continue to be part of the network. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, David. And very true. I think all the co-scholars bring in different wisdoms and take different wisdom with them from the program. And I think we've seen a lot of that even with the Global Alumni Initiative courses, which you have taught. Thank you for sharing. All right, so up next we have Kathy.
Hello. My heart is just so full. I would love to talk to so many individuals and catch up, and you know, it's just I just feel an immense love. It's like that song that Muriel Smith, this wonderful African-American singer, used to sing, "The world walked into my heart." And I just feel so much for so many situations. And in my illness, I can't do much, but I really do pray for each one of you and pray for situations and want to share love. And anyway, so I just want to thank all the people I worked with and how much you enrich my life. I thought of this poem of giving birth to the dream. That was a beautiful poem to share. I want to thank the Swiss for hosting us for so many years and really doing the work to keep CO going and running. And I think Marianne Spreng is here. And I just think of a moment when the co-scholars, we had a panel, and we were in the theater. So it was a big crowd. And after the panel spoke, and it was a very good presentation, this young man who had just come to CO got up and began spewing hate about certain people. And this was wrong. And it just was quite shocking. So Marianne stood up and as the host of CO and said, let me just get this right. All people are welcome in this house. And then she might have added that we listen to each other and don't throw insults. Everyone is welcome as part of the family of CO. And that was just such a powerful moment for everyone. And an important person had walked out. And so there are a lot of things to debrief afterwards. And there are many pains that come to CO, people with deep trauma. And I've learned a lot about listening and just am very grateful. Also grateful for Marianne Lowy, who's probably with us. And Dr. Lowy was our director in 1992. And he was the teacher of Barry and many others at George Mason, and really set the standard and the power of peace building for our course. And I just want to thank him, and the 1992 scholars here, I'm sure, would love to say something about Dr. Lowy, because he's no longer with us, and we just still feel inspired by him. So excuse me for being so melodramatic, but I feel very deeply about all these things. And send my love to you all. Thank you.
Love, so much love to you, Kathleen. I think, that's the power of CO and the CO Scholars Program. I think we all get to learn these messages here and there. And thank you for sharing that. All right, Dr. Mohammed Abnimar.
I believe Dr. Abunimar was here earlier, but has left. But we also want to acknowledge him and thank him for the wonderful work he has done as a faculty member to so many of us.
Dr. Mohammed Abunimar sends greetings. He's at a wedding ceremony, and we'll try to do it by phone.
It's probably not a wedding ceremony, but we also want to acknowledge his great contributions to the CO Scholars Program. Michelle, are you on?
Greetings to everyone. Thanks so much. I'm delighted to be here and to bask in the feast that is remembering the history of the CO Scholars Program. And amongst the many nuggets, I will share 1.5, but they're very short. And that is one moment when we were doing a sculpting exercise. So we're back to the classroom now in CO in Switzerland. And there was a moment when the participants in the program had depicted a lot of human suffering and struggle. And then there was another kind of scene in the sculpture, which involved a kind of conventional life with white picket fences and dogs and happy children running around. And there was one of the co-scholars, a young man who was literally being pulled at from each side. There were people pulling him to come and help with all the suffering. And then the possibility of simply living a quiet life and walling himself off from all the suffering was also pulling him. And I remember that moment. It seemed to take 10, 15 minutes, but I'm sure it didn't take that long. As he stood there being pulled by each of these two visions, each of these two worlds. And finally, as we all held our breath, he moved toward the people who needed him the most. And as we've heard from the lovely love story, it doesn't mean that he gave up all hopes of a happy life, but it meant that he heard the cry. And it was a very beautiful moment to see him make that decision amongst us, which he then enacted in the world, as have so many others. And my half story is just the incredible beauty of seeing Hildy out picking blueberries. So those are the moments that I would add to this feast. And thank you so very much for having me and for all of you carrying the work out into the world.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Nyla?
Hi, thank you so much for organizing this, and it's wonderful to be a part of it. I'm having trouble fixing on one story. There were just so many flashes of memories. The campfires, the trip to Geneva with the co-scholars. I was on the organizing side. But I think what I definitely remember is the talent show. I don't know if we still do that, but the scholars would spend so much of the day in the classroom and working on their projects and doing presentations and learning. And then to see them in this talent show in the one evening during the program was so much fun. People would see each other in a completely different light. I remember one student doing an origami right there on stage, singing the poetry, the jokes, and that's what sticks with me too. All that bonding and different way of seeing people once the program, once the day was done. I also have flashes of just seeing the co-scholars around co and meeting participants from the conferences and just feeling like, oh, these are my people, and they're the two sides of the attendees at co and the co-scholars mixing together was always such a wonderful sight. And I enjoyed that very much. And I was just also grateful to be able to work with Kathy and Randy and to be part of this amazing family. And Barry Hart, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the talent shows are always the fun aspect of the program, and you get to see a lot of people in different lights. And speaking of Randy, are you on?
Hello to everybody. Wonderful to see so many. Many memories like everyone else. I'm so proud to be part of this program, really. And just I see over the years what everyone has go on to do in so many parts of the world. But as Nayla and Kathy and Yedka, anyone who's been program director knows, one of the challenges of bringing people from conflict areas is getting visas for them and then getting them out of whatever situation they're in, which can be terribly difficult. And I have many memories of, you just live into it, your whole heart and body are engaged in this. And one time in particular goes back to my first year as program director, 95, and trying to get Sam Doe out of first Liberia. And then he was in Accra for a week trying to get his visa. And there were floods and there was some holiday. And of course, there's general bureaucracy at embassies, like the Swiss embassy. And finally, on the last day, when he just was ready to give up, at the end of the day, when the embassy was about to close, they came out with his passport and visa. And he phoned to say he was coming. So I have never been so happy to welcome anyone at the coast station as Sam when he arrived a week late for the course. But of course, he kept coming back as intern, as faculty, and then going on to start a program in West Africa, WANEP, the West African Network for Peace Building, and then to work with the United Nations, and now to head up the UNDP in South Sudan. And to me, that's in a way typical of what happens with co-scholars and what makes me so proud. I also would just like to take the time to thank the many donors who make the program possible. And I think particularly Will and Angela Elliott, who are on this call, at least Will is, and Marianne Lowy, and Kenny and Debbie Robinson, and so many, Kathy Johnson, so many others who've given faithfully over the years and have made the program possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And yes, we thank all the donors that have made the co-scholars program possible and continue to make it possible. Thank you so much for sharing. Up next, we have Sri.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry, somehow my video is not cooperating. Felicitation to all of you. It's amazing to be together, and surely a microcosm of how we aspire our world to be. I think a highlight for me is, since my participation at co-scholars program at Asia Plateau, the times that I've had meeting co-scholars in the other countries, in Nepal, in Bangladesh, in the Philippines, in India, of course. Just last week, I was with two of the former co-scholars in Gandhi Ashram in Wardha, and just remembering and them talking about their experiences is a true highlight for me, and a continued gift which the Co-Scholars Program has given. So we are an extended family, and all the trips and all the challenges we face together make us who we are. And so just let's keep on keeping on. Congratulations to all.
Yes, thank you so much, Sri. And I think in the spirit of what Kathy shared earlier, all are welcome here. So thank you so much for sharing. Just a reminder, we will have a time to ask questions of some of our faculty and program directors. But after we hear from Yitka, who is our next, who's the current program coordinator, and we'll hear from her, and then you'll have a chance to ask some questions. We may not get to all of them, but please feel free to add those in the chat if you have any. So Yitka, take it away.
I think I work on CSP for almost 10 years now, but this 30th anniversary has given me a chance to reflect on what it means to me in the larger sense. 3 words come to me: hope, privilege, and family. The first word, hope. I have hope in you who experience the program and are the ambassadors for peace in their families, communities, countries, and even for the world. The idea of world peace seems further away now than 20 years ago, but I do continue to hope that my own children will inherit a world that more and more people believe in the idea of living in harmony with each other and with nature. Most CSP graduates don't work formally in the peace building community, but so many return to their communities and become agents of peace. They're teachers, doctors, lawyers, government workers, business owners, musicians, fathers, and mothers. But what distinguishes them is that they are the ink blocks of peace, slowly spreading the idea of communal harmony through the lives they lead. The second word, privilege. It's a privilege to work along with the inspiring teachers, the CSP faculty, many of whom are present here today. They are not just colleagues, but mentors and points of resilience. They are the pillars of this program and give unconditional attention to all the scholars during the program and far beyond what we expect from them or we can pay them. The third word, family, a global family. I call the scholars my babies, sisters, and brothers. Knowing that I'm not alone is a gift. For example, our facilitators, Amos, Indy, and Rohit. I reached out to them a couple of weeks ago asking for their help with this celebration. They responded without any hesitation to make room for me in their busy lives. There is something special about being a part of a global family when nationalism is on the rise. It is easy to feel disheartened right now between our inability to cooperate more effectively to deal with COVID, the wars raging in many places where our alumni are, and climate change posing an existential threat to the many of us. I must recognize the courage of our Afghan alumni who are facing so much right now, and all the other alumni working in conflict zones and working against discrimination for equal rights, whether it's Black Lives Matter here in the US or in Nepal or other parts of the world. But I will not give up because I believe in you. The ink blocks of peacemakers we foster year after year may someday just become too much for the barriers that stop us from truly becoming one global family. Thank you.
Thank you, Yitka. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you to all our faculty, program directors, program coordinators who shared. Like we said earlier, these 30 years would not have been possible without the love, care, support, dedication that you all have poured into this program and into all of us scholars with each passing year. I've mentioned this on the chat. We have some time to ask questions of our faculty and our team members? Great, I see a question coming in. And we will get to those. So please start typing in your questions. And Amos and I will kick off with this question. And in fact, what Yitka shared was the perfect segue to what we wanted to ask. Our world these days just seems so full of despair and tragedy, from the pandemic to climate change and so on and so forth. And the question we want to ask is, how can we as peace builders build that stamina, that endurance to keep moving forward? We see you, our faculty and our program coordinators and directors, and you have been giving back to CSP all these years and continue to do so. And in your own spheres of influence and in your lines of work, you continue to do this work. So how do you keep pouring from that cup? How do you balance self-care with care for the world community? So those of us who are alums on the call, we would love to hear you share your wisdom once again with us. Perhaps we can use the raise hand feature on the chat if any of our faculty or program directors would like to go. Otherwise, Amos and I are going to start calling names, just like you did to us when we were in your classroom.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a powerful question that has been asked. For me, there are three things. One is my own sense of belief about the world and about humanity. And that comes from my upbringing, how my father constantly reminded me that, he would tell the story. I don't want to take long, but he would tell the story in a dramatic fashion, like every African storyteller would do. And then he would say, Sam, when God was creating this world, he created everything just through his word. He said, let there be, and everything became. But when it came to you, he took his own time, he crafted, he sculpted and molded this clay, and he prostrated over this clay and breathed in his nostril. And that is when you became a living soul. So of all of God's creation, it took him prostrating so that you become. And if you can remember that every other human whose eyes you look into, he is a creation from that prostration of God, so that he became a living soul. And it's something that can never change, that is very important, that is immutable for all beings around you. And that constantly reminds me, even if I find myself in difficult environment like South Sudan, and I look at the people we work with in South Sudan, it rings in my ear, these became living soul when God prostrated. So they're so powerful and so valuable, and you can embrace that God in them, and that is where the connection is. That helps me constantly, even if I meet difficult people, violent people, I know beyond all of that facade of horror and violence and terror, they have a breath of God. And that is why they are a living soul. So that gives me the energy and the hope that beyond this, there will be that centeredness, there will be that reestablishment of God's creation and the soul that God has made in all of us. And so that's where, I don't know if that addresses your question, but that's where I draw my energy from every day as I traverse these difficult environments where I find myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam. Florina, if you'd like to share your thoughts with us.
Okay, I'm going to demonstrate. So this is a little cup I have here. And this is a cup that I grew up drinking in. So it's probably more than 50 years old. And as a child, this is what I did. I would drink. And I would insist that somebody kept pouring into the cup. And I guess I haven't grown up too much with that. So I think the way my cup gets filled is that I keep it open and I let people keep filling it. So I always think that the more I give, the more I get. So it's about just being open and giving as much as you can and knowing that your cup will be filled. So to making sure that, so the key is that the cup does have a lid. So this is the lid for that cup, but not to close it, but to keep it open and let others fill your cup, and it will overflow and you will be nourished. So that's my simple answer. Thanks, Indy.
Thank you, Florina. Of course, Florina and Ashok, the dynamic duo, teaching us lessons with all their props so that we'll never forget.
Yes. So we have another question here. Vasu asked, what do you think is still unique about CSP compared to other peace building educational programs?
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I read the question. The first thing that comes to mind is beauty. The environment is critical for the Co-Scholars Program, both at Co in Switzerland and at AP. And there's another beauty that's there too, and it's the people. So you have a program within conferences, within different activities that are going on at AP or in the Co-Palace now. I really liked Mountain House better, but anyway, there we are. And I think that combination of things, and it's 3 to 4 weeks long. It's a good amount of time, as we heard earlier. It's not a full semester. It's not 4 years of university, but it's a very important amount of time for people to settle in, to get to know each other, to bond as a community, and to find together a way forward. And I think when we developed the conflict where I come from, I think that was an eye-opener for a lot of people to really take a look at their own situation and then to share that situation with others so that they would get to know each other even more completely, more deeply in that setting. So that would be one answer I would give. So thanks.
Thank you. David, you want to take a crack at it?
Yeah, so one of the things that has happened in many of the academic peace building programs, to some extent, Eastern Mennonite, certainly Notre Dame and Nova and ICAR, is that as science and research in peace has developed, we keep squeezing in more and more content and science specific or theory specific knowledge and frameworks. And what gets squeezed out is formation, is the formation of the people as peace builders. And the same science that can be used to be a peace builder can be used to be a colonizer. And so what happens at AP and what happens at CO is that we focus on building people so that they can just be. It's not just about doing, it's about being a full representation, being personally a manifestation of the possibility of peace. Because once you've got that, then the different frameworks are important, but they become coincidental to your presence. And so the focus, the uniqueness is the focus on building people who are in their very being representatives and manifestations of the possibilities of peace and justice, no matter where they are. And that will always be the signature moment that happens in these programs. So.
Thank you so much, David, for sharing that. Okay, have a couple more questions here. So Monica asks, how could we join our individual powers as a community and support each other more often to keep flourishing? And Kathy, do you want to answer this question?
For me, I really think there are ways of doing that. And one is Creators of Peace. It's a beautiful program set up by Jean Brown and others. And I just feel it's really an energizing communication. They have set up a time of sharing of 8 sessions and reflecting on peace and what are obstacles to peace. And it just, is a powerful way of bringing people together. People, I don't know how many countries are doing it, but it's quite vital and it's really brought about some community change, which I think is just, what's called for now to strengthen our democracies is building community. And so anyway, I don't know if I'm totally answering it, but I feel very passionately about, keeping the reflection going in the community of how to build peace. And it really is a lot to do with the inner being, the inner heart. I was very moved by what Sam said. That's my little piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly, I think the various programs, IFC programs are around, including the Global Alumni Initiative and the various projects that CSP alumni are taking on around the world, really are some of what can continue to bring us together. All right, so Ashok, the next question is for you. And Rajuri asks, what kind of challenges does CSP face these days?
These days, interesting question. Well, places together, first of all. The COVID is one of those major challenges that we face, despite the fact there's all kinds of online, we can meet online, but we really miss the hugs and kisses, The healing hugs and the soothing kisses are what we actually miss a lot. Handshakes, having tea together, having coffees together, sitting together around the table, chatting. There's more learning takes place in those areas than actually the classrooms. That's what we miss. That's a big challenge. And finances. Today, the world itself is going through major crises. We're working in COVID for both Florina and I. We see people struggling for food every day. It's a big challenge. We don't have people, and to organize a course like this is a huge luxury. That's a big challenge to bring people together. Travel restrictions, be it fleeing from danger or be it going for fun, travel for pleasure. It's a real big challenge. These are big challenges. And also when people don't have money, how will they fund people for education? That's your last priority. You need to have your basics right, no? So funding for education has come down dramatically. And the level of, and also one of the things that I see is in any disaster, especially health or natural disaster, the first casualty is peace and justice. Peace and justice are first casualties when it comes to disasters. And this is what we see in Afghanistan, we see this in Sri Lanka, we see this all over, even in our own places, where in India, we are struggling because of the pandemic. We're not able to go out and stand in the street for a protest. We're not able to gather intellectuals and say, okay, this is what we want to advocate. Our farmers are protesting for the last, close to 300 days they're protesting. Nobody wants to look at it. And we're not able to go there. If this was normal times, non-COVID times, Florina and I would have gotten to the next plane and gone to Afghanistan. They've been there, boom, they've been there. So this would have been, these are major challenges. As CSP, again, are scholars. reaching out to our scholars is a real big difficulty. Yesterday, from 3 a.m. in the morning, I was talking to many of our scholars in Afghanistan, reaching out to them and trying to see how we can support and stuff like that. So it's important. There's several challenges, but it's not gloomy yet. I don't want to finish with this gloom. It's not gloomy yet. We have this wonderful community of peace builders. We can have these healing circles of peace, circles of support that come in very handy. And I can reach out, you can reach out, and we can do something. And we can say that, yes, we are here for you. We can't do much, but we are here for them. And then we can start working on our networks. So these are challenges. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Ashok. This next question is a combined question from Marianne in Cameroon and Ismaila, who are wondering about what's next for CSP. Is there going to be another 30 years? So Yitka, as our current program director, enlighten us.
We would love to have the Coast Scholars program on every continent, in-person program, but that's not possible at this point. But yes, right now we are planning a new program in Australia, hopefully starting next year. And there has been lots of talks and lots of planning for bringing the Coast Scholars to the huge continent of Africa. So watch out, because we are coming to you.
Thank you, Yitka. We also have some alums raising their hands to share. So Troken, the floor is yours.
Yes, so thank you. I'm Troken McGee. I am from Liberia, and I was part of the Coast Scholars Switzerland in 2018. First, there was a question about what keep us going as peace builder, and especially the kind of program that is designed at COAST. So one of the things I want to say, like that right there puts it, it's not just about the theory, but the practical aspect, but most importantly, the co-spirit. I can tell you for sure that members of my cohort, we still bond, we still communicate. Anumba was getting married, she informed us. We wasn't there in person, but we had this kind of Zoom link where we participated. Yitka had some issues when this whole issue started in America. She shared with some of us members of the Coast Guard, and we were able to kind of motivate her. Kama and other scholars. So that relationship, that bond that we have built, not just at COAST, but beyond COAST, I think it has helped us to move forward as peace builders. And I think that's helpful. And I think it's something that we need to continue, not just in our class, but I hope other classes, other cohorts are doing that beyond COAST to keep that communication link open, where you share not just only peace building issues, but other issues. Like Mary and I, we talk most of the time. Even some personal issue, I share some personal issues. She gives me advices. She has personal issues, I give her advices. I think these are things that help us to move forward. In terms of progress so far, when I went at COAST, I was still like a project officer at the institution where I worked. But the skills and information I gathered, I have used over time. Eventually, when I came back, I became the country director for Search for Common Grounds. If some of you know Search for Common Grounds, it's an American international-based peace building institution. So I became the country director in Liberia, and currently I'm the executive director for another peace building institution right now in Liberia. So there has been a lot of progress made. And I think, like Yitka said, I think it's important that members of the Coast Scholars continues to provide some update on our activities that we do, so other people get to know. And I think based on the progress and impact we have made in the society, I think it's important that we continue this program.
So we'll go to Tasneem, and Praveen has his hand up. And then we may have to start wrapping up in the interest of time. Tasneem, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm overwhelmed to see all of these familiar faces. I miss you so much. I love you all. My name is Tasneem Idris, and I have been a co-scholar in AP 2018. And I was also an intern in CO in 2016 and 17. What can I say? I'm super happy to be part of this family. I'm still communicating literally on a daily basis with everyone, especially my roomies. I have helped started IFC in Tunisia. We're going for the official registration soon. We actually wanted to work on it, but because of COVID, it didn't happen. I just want to say that, as Ashok said, and I miss you so much, Ashok and Florina, we actually missed being together and having that cup of tea together, that conversation together, apart from the lessons and everything. So I don't know if it's possible, but let's work, all of us, to gather somewhere somehow in the near future. But in the meantime, let's keep these meetings, virtual meetings happening. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tasneem, and it's so wonderful to see you, even if only on Zoom. Praveen, let's go to you.
So I just wanted to reach out and say thanks. I'll just take a single minute. Firstly to Sri, it was back in 2013, he somehow found about me, made sure that I apply, and I made it to the CSP and then to ITCA. I come from a cricketing nation, India, where people are mad behind cricket. And usually people feel that it's the captain who makes sure the team wins, but many times people forget it is the manager of the team who plays a very important role. I was fortunate to meet Itka, who not only became my mentor and coach, but also a manager, and giving me a lot of guidance and mentoring, which helped me. I started a non-charity, which started working with teachers. And then currently, I'm also working with 50 refugees to mentor them to make it to Ivy League colleges. This is all thanks to the Co-Scholars program. It's a wonderful network, a great community, I believe, and it has changed my life and of many of you here as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Praveen. And I love that you're rocking your CSP t-shirt. Wonderful. Valerie, over to you.
Thank you so much. I really have appreciated hearing all of the comments today. I'm Valerie Lemmy from the USA, and I am a member of the board of directors, the treasurer. And so it is really, for me, important to hear the value that the Co-Scholars program has brought to all of your lives and the work that you do in your respective communities. I also have to acknowledge and give thanks to Yitka for the leadership, the energy, the fortitude, the ideas, and the ability to raise money in difficult and tough times to keep the program going. This really is, in large measure, continuing because of her ability to just be ahead of the game in thinking of ways to keep it relevant, valuable, and informative. And so thank you, Yitka, for your leadership of this very important program. I am even more inspired to do all we can in the US of A to continue this very important work. And I look forward to opportunities to interacting with and meeting with more of you regularly. And maybe Yitka, we could find a way to include some of the co-scholars in our board meetings and some of the work in the US. And now that we have all learned that Zoom can be a powerful connecting tool, let's be able to take advantage of that and possibly even have some internships who could do remote work and relationship building, network building for us as an organization. So as you can see, I've got great ideas about how we can continue our connections and engage and learn from all that you are doing. So thanks for the opportunity to listen and learn today.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Yitka, I hope you're checking out the chat. There's so much of love coming your way. We had a question from Zeke that we didn't get to earlier. And instead of asking just our faculty and our team, I'm going to throw this question out to anyone on the call, if anyone would like to share briefly. And Zeke's question was, what gives you hope for the future of the world right now?
Co-scholar.
Thank you, Randy. Co-scholars, indeed. I think being on this call, listening to everyone, hearing and reading everyone's reflections, I feel so much of hope for the future of our world.
This is Valerie again. One of the things that I want to express, all of us have talked about the tragedy that's taking place in Afghanistan. And I certainly am struggling with what can we do as an organization, what can we do as a group of co-scholars. It just feels to me that there ought to be something out there that we could make a difference with. And so let's be keeping on our thinking caps, and let's use Yitka as our connection. What can we do? How can we help? How can we make a difference as an organization who cares about peace and people in the world? Thank you.
Thank you. Carl, do you want to respond to that? We didn't get to ask you a question earlier.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I just jotted a few things here. I'll be real quick. In my quiet time devotional reading this morning, actually, the writer was talking about 4 anchors: trust, hope, purpose, and fellowship. And I tried to think about those anchors in everything that we're facing and the challenges in Afghanistan and so many other parts of the world, and the pain and the suffering and the violence. We can talk about that for a long time, but I felt like I wanted to make a declaration in each of those anchors. So I'll do that. For trust, I say I refuse to live in suspicion, cynicism, and fear. For hope, I say I refuse to lose my curiosity. I refuse to cease exercising my imagination for a better world. For purpose, I want to say I refuse to be blinded to the reality of God and the Holy Spirit at work beyond my power, and that there's always a story behind a story. Even in the midst of bleakness, chaos, or grave conditions. And for fellowship, which is what CSP means so much, all of these anchors are part of CSP for me. But for fellowship, I refuse to allow alienation to creep in, and I refuse to disregard the power and the resilience of many people coming together for good.
Thank you, Carl. You just took us and I back to 2016 when we were sitting in your class, and the many words of wisdom you shared, and just keeping, challenging us to think through these things. Thank you so much. So in the interest of time, as we meditate
Excuse me. Do you mind, Indy, if I say something? Because I think there's been a slight oversight in not hearing from Wilbur Wright, who was program director at the beginning, 92, 93. So I just would love for him to say just one little thing. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Not at all, Kathy, absolutely.
Is Wilbur still on the call? Maybe not.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And yes, it seems Wilbur is not on the call, but thank you for recognizing Wilbur and his contributions. Definitely appreciated. So as we meditate on the hope for the future of the world right now and what gives us hope for it, and as we bring today's celebration to a close, I would like to acknowledge the following for the immense support that they have given to the program, and that is the Han Loser Foundation, the Irene Prestwich Trust, the Sylvia Zuber Foundation, the Co-Foundation, the Del Mar Foundation, TransAsia Biomedicals, PETSER, and the Trust Building Program of IFC International. But we all know there are so many, many, many individuals whose contributions have made today possible, and all these past 30 years that we have been learning and laughing and living with hope in our world. And it is, as many of you are sharing on the chat, it is an absolute privilege and honor to be here and to bask in this community that we have built over this time period. And most importantly, my sincere, heartfelt thanks from Amos and I and Yitka and Rohit to each and every one of you on this call. You are each amazing individuals, and together this beautiful community that we have built and that we will continue to connect with and give back to and draw from and inspire is just, there are no words to describe the hope and the love that is present with all of us here on this call. So just to celebrate that, and as a tribute to all the alumni who have come through this program and who have made it come alive. And there you have it, folks, 30 years of CSP. On behalf of Yitka, Rohit, Amos, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for celebrating with us all. Here's to 30 more years.